This lecture focuses on diffusion of research results through scientific papers. This is still the primary way of communicating science. Writing a paper is an offspring of a research process. The results accumulated in various forms, manual sketches, mathematical formulae, execution results on computer simulations, experimental data, interviews, and so on, are collected, organized, and written down in a textual document. The act of selecting, writing down, and systematizing the material collected throughout the research journey is first of all crucial for the researcher. A researcher result is never guaranteed to hold until one tries to spell it out in a systematic, rigorous, and detailed manner. In fact, to validate certain steps of research, sometimes researchers write down reports that are not supposed to be published as scientific papers, but only serve the purpose of validating a research hypothesis. They may later evolve into papers to be disseminated to the scientific world. Writing a scientific paper is a hard and time-consuming process. It is never done in one shot, but rather through continuous revisions. Often, research papers are developed from initial drafts or working papers that only serve an internal use within the research group, or for feedback from selected experts. Once a research has matured, papers are written to be diffused as publications. The term publication comes from Latin publicare, which means make public. Research results are made public, open to others, in order to guarantee scientific progress. By publishing a research paper, researchers take responsibility for its contents. Their reputation and stand in a research community depend on the research results they publish. Since researchers must be proud of their research results, before opening them to the public, they should do their best to ensure that the paper makes a valuable contribution. As we discussed earlier, this means that the work is original and significant, and that the results are obtained and described in a rigorous way. There are two kinds of publications. The first is through a medium that only ensures visibility of the contribution to the general public. Today, this is achieved via electronic archives. The simplest way is to use a personal archive, for example, via a personal web page. There are also public archives, like Archive, that can be used for this purpose. We will come back to this later. The most important way of publishing research results, however, is through publication venues that are based on peer review. Peer review, which will be presented in detail in another lecture, is a cornerstone of research ecosystem. In the context of publication, it means that a paper is disclosed to the public only after experts in the field, peers, review it to verify that it satisfies a certain quality standard level. Peer review acts as a validation filter that prevents publication of submissions that do not meet the quality standards adopted by the venue. It certifies that the paper has scientific value and is worth being presented to the audience of the venue. Since publications embody research results, it is inevitable to use them to provide some approximate measure of productivity and quality of a researcher. Of course, this is especially true for peer-reviewed publications since they carry a kind of official certification. This use has generated in researchers a tension towards publication that sometimes goes beyond the natural and legitimate aspiration to disclose research results. Publish or perish is a phrase that is often used. It was coined to describe this pressure on researchers. It is important to stress that the goal of research is to advance science and produce valid results. Publication is only one of the means, not the end. We will discuss this problem in depth in other lectures that focus on evaluation of research and researchers. Scientific journals are the traditional and most widely used peer-reviewed publication venues. All research areas have a set of reference journals. Of those, some are considered as prestigious venues by researchers who are active in an area. Publishing a paper on those journals is viewed by the research community as a major achievement. A venue is viewed as prestigious because the research community working in the area considers it as such. It has a long history of influential contributed articles. The editorial process to accept contributions is severe and thorough. The editors and the reviewers are respected scientists in the area, and so on. Researchers try to publish their best results in top journals, which serve as authoritative research archives. In each area, there are also less prestigious second-tier and even third-tier journals, sometimes specialized on specific subtopics, which may be the target publication of research results that are not considered to fit the top archival journals. Selecting the most appropriate publication target for a research result is an important decision to make. The way a result should be presented may depend on the style of papers commonly accepted by a venue. When you select a venue, beware of questionable quality journals and even predatory publishers. In recent years, there has been a proliferation of journals, many of which have dubious reputation and even damage the image of the research. Unfortunately, this is one of the negative consequences of the publication rush I mentioned earlier. Conferences are also peer-reviewed publication venues. In informatics, they are considered to be equally valid as journals, but this is often not true for other scientific areas. In informatics, each area has its own reference conferences, some of which are considered as very prestigious, at the same or even higher levels than journals. The reason why conferences are so prominent in informatics is that the area has been evolving at an extremely high speed, and conferences became a more suitable diffusion mechanism than journals because they ensure faster turnaround time. Journals, instead, normally require a longer editorial process prior to publication. Conferences have submission date within which contributions must be submitted and a decision date when a decision about acceptance must be made after the review process has terminated. These dates are two hard constraints that journals do not normally have. Like journals, conferences can belong to different prestige tiers, and one should carefully select the conference that best fits the research result to be presented. As for journals, beware of dubious quality venues and predatory conference organizers. Before I terminate this lecture, I wish to stress again that writing papers is hard and time-consuming task that is often underestimated by young researchers. This becomes extremely critical when paper submissions are subject to hard deadlines, as happens with conferences. Writing is hard because one needs to move from informal concepts and ideas into rational, systematic, and rigorous descriptions. Books on scientific writing and courses providing writing guidelines are available to support inexperienced researchers. These issues are outside the scope of this course, But if you are a student or a beginner researcher, I urge you to equip yourself with the necessary writing skills.